You've probably heard of the most popular entrepreneurship book, which is Rich Dad Poor Dad, which was written by Robert Kiyosaki. Included in this book are the keys to learning the financial intelligence that the rich use, which is not commonly taught to regular people in school or by their parents. I would assume that many of you guys have either already read this book or heard of it, so just let me know in the comments. Today I'm going to be discussing some of the key takeaways that I've gotten from reading this book 3 times. The first lesson that the reader must understand is that wealth is not the amount of money that you have in your bank account or how many assets that you have. It's an individual's ability to survive comfortably for a number of days going forward without having to work at all. Let's move into the first lesson, which is understanding what the rat race is. The main concept of this book is the rat race and the different ways that the rich break out of it compared to the poor and the middle class. I know it sounds very cliche and cringe, but it's actually a very real and concerning concept. It's a cycle that has been passed down from generations. Parents went to school and found a job with security. They advised and maybe even forced their own children to do the same thing while not learning anything about money. They would work hard to get a promotion at their job just so they could earn some more money. But once that money has been acquired, their expenses and their liabilities go up at the same rate that their income is going up. So once this happens, once your income goes up in correlation with your expenses and liabilities, you're truly stuck. Instead of using this money to make more money or even just simply investing it, their spending and their liabilities increase. Rich Dad would always say that money is just an illusion, just as a carrot hanging in front of a donkey is. Rich people really acquire true assets, while the poor and middle class acquire liabilities that they think are assets, such as a house to live in or a personal car that they're going to drive around. Okay, let me pop up some charts that were discussed in the book. So, this first chart on the left is how the middle class and poor spend their money. So they have a job and they get a salary, right? Well, the first thing they do instead of paying themselves is they pay their expenses, if that makes sense. For example, right here, it's mortgages, car loans, credit card debt, school loans, and then they pay their expenses, and whatever left over is all that's left, right? The expenses are taxes, mortgage payment, car payment, credit card payment, school loan, and all that income, all this income that goes in from the salary is still taxed, right? So let's say they earn 100K and their tax is like 30%. They get taxed right here. They only have 70% of that money to pay their liabilities and expenses. So the difference is the rich, on the right side, or the wealthy, they have assets that produce income, and with that income, they pay first their expenses and then their liabilities, and that's what they're taxed on. They get their income from their assets, they pay their expenses and their liabilities, and then they're taxed. So let's say they make 100K in income from their assets, they pay their expenses, which is 50K, and they pay their liabilities, which is, we'll say 40K. So they have 10K left over. Instead of, let's say they have 50% income tax rate. Instead of getting taxed 50% on that beginning 100K income that they made, which means they'd only have $50,000 left, they're getting taxed on that $10,000 that's left over, which 50% of $10,000 is $5,000. So if you do the math, which we just did, would you rather be paying $50,000 in taxes or $5,000 in taxes on $100,000? It's simple, right? So that's just a few of the charts that they go over in this book. The most powerful tool that you have is your own mind. Therefore, if you're not training it daily, you are doing a disservice to yourself. You should be training it basically every day, just like you should be training your physical body with exercise. Thoughts are what shape your life. If you think as a rich man, you will soon become one. Whatever controls the majority of your thoughts is what you will soon become. Richard states that his rich dad would say things such as, "I'm a rich man, and rich people do not do this, no matter the circumstances." One of the first steps on your journey to becoming wealthy is learning to make up your mind decisively. So if you believe you're going to become something, decisively make up your mind that that is what you'll become, and don't accept anything that goes against that principle or thought. Richard's rich dad forbade the words, "I cannot afford it." Instead, he would have their children say, "How can I afford it?" The reasoning for this is because it made your mind think instead of just shutting down. Many of the most successful people are the ones who do their own thinking. This is actually one of the hardest things about building wealth because you cannot go with the crowd. There are numerous examples of this shown in the market, stock market, crypto market, real estate market, all the markets. There's numerous examples. For example, we'll use crypto. A year and a half ago, everybody was jumping in on the hype when Bitcoin was around 50 to 60K. Now look at them now. Most of them got destroyed. It's because they followed the crowd and they were too late. They were buying while the initial investors were selling. There's a difference between being poor and being broke. Broke is temporary, while poor is eternal. You should be using your head before you react emotionally. Let me explain. Money typically runs everyone's lives, but people are not able to tell the truth about it. If you ask anybody in the street or your family why they work at a job they hate, they're not going to say because of the money. It's a fact that the majority of people who work don't actually love their job and they're just doing it for the money, but they won't admit it. Money controls so much of their emotions that it actually controls their soul. I'm talking about that fear that wakes them up to go to the job they hate at the crack of dawn every morning. This fear makes them think about not having enough money. They think that once they go to their job and work hard, it will go away. Although this may be a temporary fix, that fear will always return unless you improve your financial intelligence, which is the point of this book. However, most people will not admit this, just like they won't admit the role money plays in their lives. It makes no sense to me. Like stated earlier, why would people work a job they hate if they weren't interested in the money? So, another step to becoming successful and wealthy is to be truthful about your emotions and use your mind and your emotions in your favor. Observe, do not react. These two emotions of fear and desire can be used either in your favor or against you. However, this example should show you that you really cannot play it safe if you want to become wealthy. If you're afraid of taking risks, but you really want to win, then you will take those risks because the excitement of winning is greater than the fear of losing. Vice versa. You also have to stop clinging onto these old ideas and embrace change. Old ideas are the biggest liability because it creates an illusion that something is preventing you from succeeding when it is really something that's inside of you, your thoughts. A question you should be asking yourself daily is, where are these daily activities taking me? Do not be like a little hamster that's running in circles in his ball daily, which turns to weeks, which turns to years, which eventually turns to your life. You should be asking yourself daily what your future holds for you due to your daily actions. No matter what, opportunities will always be there. Every day of your life, the world is handing out numerous opportunities, and it will continue, especially with how fast the world evolves these days. However, these great opportunities will not be seen with your eyes. Instead, they will be seen with your mind. And your mind will create these ideas from the opportunities, which is what will truly produce money. However, to become wealthy, truly the first thing that you have to do is know what you're looking for, and then create and set out on a path to go get it. To wrap up my key takeaways, I want to cover financial aptitude by posing a question. It's the ability to keep your wealth once you have created wealth. Why do schools focus so much on literacy but not financial literacy? I mean, the whole reason for going to school is to make money or to find a job that makes money. So why are we not studying money? School or no school, you can become wealthy very quickly, but you can also lose that wealth just as quickly as you made it. This is why you need to learn financial aptitude and intelligence. You can also never be lucky. Luck is created just as money is. If you want to be luckier and create money instead of working hard, you have to develop your financial intelligence. A common misconception that separates the rich from the poor and middle class is that you can just put your money in a specific place and let it sit there and grow. In some cases, this may be true, but this is not how your money will truly grow. You have to be very active with your money and be up to date with the area or sector that it's placed in. On top of that, another thing the rich do that the poor and middle class do not is put many eggs in a few baskets. You should be doing this once you've done your due diligence, and instead of putting a few eggs in many baskets like the poor and middle class do. The greatest risk is everything that you do not know. However, there will always be risk, so you have to learn to manage it instead of avoiding it. We all have the same 24 hours in the same day, and we get to choose what we want to do at that time. We also all get to choose what we want to do with our money, and we get to choose what we want to put in our heads. If you choose to be rich, then make a conscious decision every day and every hour of that day to become rich, and it will happen. That's just the formula for becoming rich. You could substitute in whatever you want into that formula. Finally, we were all given two great tools at birth, and those two tools are our time and our minds. but it is up to us to develop and use these assets to become successful.